I'm working in the New Perspectives for Access 2010 textbook. I'm in Tutorial 6 and I'm on page AC330. I'm going to add a combo box to find records. This next step is key. In order to get the navigation combo box to work, your record source needs to show a named object. If it shows select, it won't work. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click my drop down box and I'm going to find table contract and select it. Now I could also do this by selecting a query, but in this case I need to choose the contract table because that is the record source for this particular object. So I'll go ahead and close. Now I'll go back to Design, Controls, Combo Box. I'm just going to put it up here in the header and I'm going to worry about the placement later. So this is about in the middle. Now when the combo box wizard fires up, you will see three options. If you remember the last time we did this, when we just created a combo box, you only saw two options. This particular combo box is going to provide navigation. So when you look at this list, which one of these options sounds like navigation? I'm going to find a record on my form based on the value I select in my combo box. That's navigation. I'll click it. Next. So when I click my drop-down list, what do I want to choose? Book says contract num, we'll go with it. Resize to fit. Next. Now I want you to notice as we've gone through this, we've not been asked to store a value anywhere. We've not been asked. It hasn't said, what field do you want to store this in, or what value do you want to save for later on. You've never been asked to store this value. This is only for navigation. When we get to the very end, this box will still say unbound in it. Give it a name, or a label in this case. Select contract and finish. It still says unbound. This combo box is bound to the customer ID field. When I make a selection in the combo box, whatever selection I make, it's going to store the customer ID for that customer in the customer ID field. This one's not going to store anything. It's going to work as navigation. I click the drop-down box, choose a number, and it takes me to that record. And I'm on record 9. If you're still on record 1, there's a problem with your combo box. You need to get rid of it. Make sure you've set your record source and do this again. So as I go to another one, 344, 344, and I'm on record 22. So as I move forward, I should see this change, this change, this. All of these values should change, and I should be on a different record. If you always remain on record 1, your combo box is wrong. I'll go ahead and save this. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a subform to this form. So I need to give myself a little room. I see from my picture that I'm going to have some controls in here, so my subform is going to go down here somewhere. So I'll click on Controls and I'll find Subform. There it is. And I'll come down in here and click, and notice here it says Child. It's because this is the main form and this is a related form. This is the parent, this is the child. I'm going to use existing tables or queries. If I select this option, I should not be selecting anything down here because this says tables and queries, and these are all forms. So if I select this option, I just move forward. And I'm going to use the invoice table. I'm going to bring all the fields in and put the contract num back. I don't need it. Click Next. It's going to match my invoices with my contracts using the contract num. Even though I put that field back, it knows to do this because in our relationship window, we related the contract table to the invoice table using the contract num field. And I'm going to name this FRM Invoice Subform. After you've named the form, make sure that it's named correctly, that it says FRM Invoice Subform. One of the biggest mistakes that folks make is they'll have an L in here because they don't get the whole prefix out for table. If you find that you do make a mistake, it's important to try to correct all those mistakes before you start adding the calculated controls. Once you add the calculated controls, if you start changing the names of the objects, your calculated controls may no longer work. I'll click Finish. It adds my subform down at the bottom. Then click the label, delete it, right-click, and open subform in new window. I'm going to select it and resize the columns to fit. Save and go back to Design View. And I'm going to add two controls in the subform footer. I'm going to add a control that's going to count the number of invoices. The best field to count is the primary key because there needs to be a value in that field. And then I'm going to sum the invoice amount. And I'm going to do that the easy way. I'm going to grab this field, hold down my Shift key, grab this field, do Control-C to copy, click in the form footer, do a Control-V to paste, deselect, and then grab this control and just bring it up a bit. You really don't have to bring them up, but by having them closer to each other when you go to Form View and view it, it's just easier to see. Now I'm going to bring these out a little bit so you can see better what I'm doing. I'm going to take invoice num and I'm going to change it to equal count. Count's a function, got to be followed by parentheses, invoice num, and equal sum invoice amount. And you notice count capitalized and put brackets around invoice num. When I click off from invoice amount, it should equal sum. Now to check this, I go to Form View. You should see 172, the total number of invoices, and 1,763,575. I'll go ahead and save and close. And this is the subform control. It's the window that allows me to look through, find the property sheet here. I'm looking at the subform control. It is the window that allows me to look from the main form into the subform and see only the records that are related to that particular record, the one that's showing in the main form. The name of the subform, the source object, these two names need to be the same. The fields that link the two objects together. Now the next thing that I want to do is I want to create a calculated control in this main form. When you see the subform control looking like this, sometimes the expression builder doesn't work. So it's better to go into Form View, look at it, and then go back. And you can see that when I set my column widths, the column width settings didn't stick. So I'm going to have to set them here. This one I'm going to leave like it is. It's probably long enough, but I don't know. But as I review my records later, I'm going to double check to see if this column's wide enough. But I'm just going to leave that one alone. And now I'll go back to Design View and Controls. And I need a text box, and I'm just going to drop it in about here. And I'll open up the properties for that text box. Control source, hit my build button, hit the expand, form, invoice subform, and I missed a step. I forgot to name these two boxes that I just created. If I changed the name of those controls after I created this calculation, my calculation would no longer work. So I'm going to scroll down, find those controls, select the first one, get a hold of it. There we go. I'm going to change this from TX10 to TXT invoice num count. And I'll change the other one to TXT invoice amount sum. Now I'll go back to my calculation and try it again. Notice that the name didn't change. That is pretty normal. So what I need to do is cancel out of this, switch over to Form View, switch back to Design View, and try it again. Still not working. So our next option, I cancel out of this. I'm going to switch back to Form View, save it, go back to Design View, and try it one more time. Now it's working. That's pretty normal with this application. And don't get frustrated by it. You just go back and forth, save it. You might even have to close the form and reopen it. And this one's going to be TXT invoice num count. I'll double click it in. This is telling me that the source of the object is FRM invoice subform. It's a form, it's user created, and here's the name of the control. The equal goes in by default, and I'll create one more text box, and I'll stick it down in here and expand invoice subform. This is going to be the invoice amount sum. Double click that in. OK. Move off the field. That one didn't work for some reason, so we'll just try it again. Probably because I was in edit mode. There we go. You notice when things go wrong, just try it again. And I'm going to take these and this one, and I'm going to align them left, and then I'm going to come into these two boxes and resize them. And this one is going to say number of invoices. This one's going to say invoice amount total. Now that I've resized those two controls, they are going to be bold, I know that. And so I'm just going to go ahead and set them for bold right now to make sure that I leave plenty of room in here. I'm going to make other formatting changes to them later on. As I set the font to bold, the text inside the box will take up more space. Now I'm going to take this one and this one, and I'll do arrange and size and ordering, align left. I don't think that they're close enough, so I'll grab these and I'll just resize them over. And this one is going to be a number, and so I'll just make it a little smaller. Then I'll move to design or to layout view and see if I want to make more changes there. This one's still a little wide. This one I need to set the format for currency and decimal places to 2. And it's a little larger than it needs to be, but I want to leave room in here so that I can at least get up into the 100,000 range. So that one's looking fine. I'll go ahead and save that and take a look at my form again. Everything appears to be working. The next steps that I need to make here are all format.